why do we run Speechcraft courses? Now, I think that you have all indicated that your main interest is as being a Speechcraft coordinator. So yes, it is one of the projects that's required to complete your DTM. It's one of the options that you have. The other thing is it's an excellent way to introduce people to Toastmasters. I have to be quite honest, previously I wasn't the biggest fan of Speechcraft because I felt that companies might start doing Speechcraft and then not start a club, so they wouldn't have that ongoing benefit. But I can see the way that it's set up now is that whoever goes through a Speechcraft course would have a very definite, clear understanding of how to operate in a pathways environment. So I think it would be a huge benefit to people starting out to do Speechcraft first. I'll go into it a little bit more in detail, but looking at it, you can have either a 4, 6 or 8-week Speechcraft course. What you could potentially do is run a 4-week Speechcraft course, and within those costs you can actually include the Toastmasters membership, and that can roll straight into a club. But then you've got a group of people who have had one-on-one or 2-to-1 mentoring on how to use Basecamp. It's a Speechcraft version of Basecamp, but it translates very well into Pathways. And then also just really being given, having their hand held to start. So I think it's a great opportunity, and I'm looking at a few corporates at the moment, Countdown being one of them, where we actually will run an initial Speechcraft course, develop the skills for people along the way, so that when they're actually starting as a club, we'll have a core group of people who are a little bit more ahead of the game so that they can take on those roles quite comfortably within the club. The other reason, of course, is sometimes you come across situations where there's just people who really want to have a very quick exposure to Toastmasters, but they don't plan on going anywhere further. But the Speechcraft course would give them the opportunity to develop speaking skills. The preparation speaks for itself. So you organize your event, you invite enough people around. I think the key is to try and decide on the date and the time so that you could then know who would be available to help, to give those people then sufficient time to prepare to be able to be in this term, in the terminology that the new Speechcraft program uses, is that the person who's running it's called the coordinator, and the people who are assisting are called the guides. So once you have purchased your Speechcraft bundle, you are given a bundle code, and you enter that in, and then it takes you to, I've got a slide of that later on, and you'll see it. It takes you to this screen. So you're logging in. This is the same as if you're logging into Pathways in a sense. You're logging into Speechcraft instead. And you log in using your normal code. And then once you've purchased your bundle, you provide with a bundle number. Now, technically, when you obtain that bundle number, you can purchase more than one Speechcraft course at a time. Ideally, you are supposed to be able to use that number. If you've bought 4, you should be able to use them for 4. I ran into difficulties with that and it wasn't working. So I would suggest that while we're still in the developmental stages of Speechcraft, I would suggest that for each bundle that you buy, purchase it separately and obtain a different bundle order. The person that's going to get credit for as being the coordinator is the person who purchases the bundle. Toastmasters International at one point advised that that coordinator couldn't be changed, but it looks as if they have now decided that you can change that coordinator information. I'm not quite sure how easy it will be. I will be doing that next week, and I'll let you know. I'll keep you informed with that. So then then what you're doing, so you're putting in your details and you're adding in your additional information. And then you come to the Speechcraft gateway. When you come here, you'll see that you are able to create events. And when you're creating events, you're creating your Speechcraft course. And one of the things you're doing there is you putting in the Speechcraft course and you're putting in the dates. Now, when you've got the dates there, you've got 90 days from the dates of your course to have access to this information. After 90 days, you lose access. In the information that you're putting in here as well, what you are explaining to what it gives you the opportunity to provide the details. So you're going to be saying when you're meeting, you're selecting again when you're creating the event, you're selecting which club. And then once you've done that, as you can see, you can put in the location where you're going to have it. You have the option to do it online and in person, or in person only. And you place the information there. You then get a coordinator overview. But before I go to that, are there any questions so far? Yes, Neville.
How many participants can you have in a bundle?
There are 5 participants per bundle. So when you purchase the bundle, you're purchasing it for 5 participants. You do have the option, if you're running a course and you're going to be having 10 people, you can have 2 coordinators. So that means 2 different people are gaining credit, and you can work together to sort out your course. If you're having 11 people, it's not that economical because you're paying for 5 and you're only using the 1. So it's a good idea to try and get it in bundles of 5. But I mean, it's $50 for 5 participants. So it's basically $10 per participant. But you have to buy it in bundles of 5. But you can have as many as you like. In terms of what they're suggesting very strongly is that you have 1 guide per participant, or perhaps a maximum of 2. So it's just making sure that if you are running a larger Speechcraft course, that you do have enough guides available to assist people. Any other questions? I can't see everyone at once, so if please shout out if don't help. Happy for people to call out rather than waiting for me to notice a raised hand.
Murray has a question.
Okay, Murray. Yeah.
I talked briefly about the new Speechcraft to the president of one of my clubs about, and her immediate concern was the club doesn't have enough experienced people to run a club, to run it. Yeah. The club has got 3 DTMs, but the rest of the members are still sort of level 2.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say that for some of the things that we are looking at, you don't have to have huge amount of experience, but I think you do need to have confidence. So, I mean, you can sometimes have a DTM who has less confidence than somebody who's completed their level 1. So it's gauging the confidence more than anything else, I think, of people that are there. Again, the idea of this is that the coordinator needs to have the experience, and the guides need a level of experience, but they don't need to be hugely experienced. Again, you need to look at what you're doing here. So, for example, if you are running a Speechcraft course for people who are struggling to find employment, the level of input that you have is valuable. And I mean, to me, anybody who's been in Toastmasters for a short time, you actually gain quite a lot of experience. But if you're delivering a Speechcraft course to the top management at, for instance, let's say ASB, you're delivering a Speechcraft course at ASB where you've got the top people, then you need to have people who are very sharp, because that's going to formulate the impression that ASB has, and it can lead to other opportunities. So it's just making sure that, when you are designing your Speechcraft course, that you choose the right people for the audience that you are targeting. And also to remember that if there are not enough people in one club, join clubs together. Clubs can help each other. I'll come across to the price. Well, actually, I'll touch on that now, and it will come up later again, but we can cover it here. So basically what Toastmasters International say is that the maximum amount you can charge for a Speechcraft course is $90 per person. So that equates to 1 year of membership. So looking at about, let's say, 125 maybe New Zealand dollars. And so that's just an option that's there. So that can be used as a fundraiser. And what I've done in the past, if more than 2 or 3 clubs are involved, I look at which club has, how many guides are there per club, and then those funding can be split proportionately once the costs are deducted. So in some cases, the cost will only be purchasing the digital bundle. In other instances, the cost might be venue hire, refreshments. It just depends on, you know, who's running the course. So each coordinator needs to work that out. Okay, so when you're coordinating it, it actually provides you with a lot of information. And again, I have been involved in, like, a little bit earlier on, and it wasn't going so smoothly. It seems to be going really smoothly. So I'm very pleased about that. At one stage, I was not able to even get onto it unless enable cookies we had to take out all the cookies and start from scratch to actually be able to get in. Then I had to do that every time I tried to get in. That's been sorted, and that's not happening anymore, which is really good. But you can see they give you the session guides. They give you the guides for the different sessions are there, and you go into it and you see exactly what's required. They give you the planning, how to prepare for your sessions, different sessions, resources. They give you the agendas, whether you're doing it for a 4, 6, or 8-week course, the outlines, evaluations, the Speechcraft content, and then also the dashboards, the validation as well. So you'll have a look and you can see that this is actually quite, you know, once the people on the Speechcraft course have come to grips with this, going on to pathways will be simple.
Question?
Yeah.
Looking at a Speechcraft being run by a club to build club membership as distinct from a fundraiser with a corporate.
Yes.
The interesting question I've got is, which of the 4, 6, or 8 versions would be most conducive to Speechcrafters joining the club at the conclusion of the Speechcraft?
It would depend on your audience. My personal preference, and again, it also depends on how long each of your Speechcraft sessions are. My personal preference is an 8-week course because it gives people a good insight as to what we are offering. However, if you're doing a 2-hour session instead of an hour session, so I'm doing 8 one-hour sessions. With one corporate, I'm going to be doing 4 1.5-hour sessions. The main thing, again, is the number of guides you've got. If you don't have a lot of guides, if you've got a lower number of guides, then you're going to need to spread it out, because you can't then split into, and also your venue. So for instance, even though we're doing it over 8 weeks, we are going to be splitting into 2 different rooms and running the delivery of the speeches and the evaluations separately, and doing the educational presentations and the table topics together, because that's giving each person enough time to be able to introduce the person delivering the speech, hear the speech, and then have the evaluations. If it's just a teaser, you can just do a 4-week course, and you will pack quite a bit into it, but it is giving a glimpse of what's there. So, Mary, I think it needs to be looked at, in a sense, case by case basis. How many people you have available, how long they're going to be able to be there to help, and those aspects have to be taken into consideration. I think at the end of the day, in 4 weeks, you can actually convey quite a lot. If you're looking at doing it specifically to add on new club members, their learning is not going to finish at 8 weeks. At 4 weeks, their learning is not going to finish there, because they're going to join the club, and then they're going to continue having the benefit that that Toastmasters gives in terms of teaching confidence and things like that. Does that make sense, Murray?
Yeah. So just thinking about it, perhaps if your main objective is to boost club membership, the length of your Speechcraft sessions ideally would be the same length as that club's normal meeting.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And what they're actually suggesting as well, in some clubs where perhaps the membership's quite low and you're trying to boost it, you can actually hold your Speechcraft course within your club meetings. And I mean, in terms of the cost, so you will have the $50 that you are doing, or $10 per person, or if you're having 5 people. But you could actually then only charge that and then the membership. So for one of the corporates, what we're doing is we are charging, it's the $10 for the bundle, and then we're charging a year's membership. So, but we split that. So we're splitting it into 2 6-month parts. But by doing it that way, people are you getting that membership fee, and then you're getting, and Toastmasters International are happy for you to do that if you incorporating your Speechcraft courses becoming part of the membership fee as well.
Sorry, I just remember the uproar with one of the Wellington Speechcraft clubs.
Yes.
I remember that the ruling was that you couldn't sign them up to your club at the beginning of the Speechcraft, but you had to give them the option at the end, because they had people who didn't actually know they were members of Toastmasters. They just thought they were doing a Speechcraft club.
Now, you can sign them up as a part of it, but they need to know right up front, obviously.
Yeah.
And there is wording around that and they provide you in this actual bundle. When you download the whole thing, they give you options on how to go about deciding on the pricing that you want to charge, and how to do it if you're wanting to make that as a part of becoming a member of Toastmasters.
Okay.
If you're having somebody who's being a coordinator who has not run Speechcraft before, it's very much step by step, because they listed 1 through to 5, but they go into quite a lot of detail for each part. Quite an important part of this is when you register your Speechcraft course. Once you've registered your participants, they are then sent an email, and like your base camp in Pathways, they're joining the base camp in Speechcraft. They need help as how to enable pop-ups. So that is something that people struggled with, is enabling pop-ups, and then also it appears as if it's behind. So people push launch, and then when they've launched it, they can't find where it's gone. Now, I know that sometimes, depending on which device you're using, sometimes that's not a problem at all, because it's just there and you can see it and it's in a new window, but it sometimes opens in a new window. So you just need to be able to think back to when you started in Pathways yourself and some of those slight technical issues you had. But the joy of the Speechcraft course is that each participant that is registered is assigned a guide. And so the guide can actually help them through that. So my suggestion would be, so in all of the courses, that the suggestions that are here, there's not a session that tells you how to avoid the issues with pop-ups and with being able to find the material. So I would almost suggest that you had a pre-session before you actually formally start the Speechcraft, so that making sure that people know what to do, because they then sent and they join as a member, and then they get a pre-course assessment, and that pre-course assessment gives you quite a bit of information as to where they're at. Are they okay presenting in a group? Are they fine having conversations, but they hate group work? And it just gives you some of those ideas. And the answers are captured, and you'll see in a minute as well. So what you see as a coordinator, you can see when people have completed a speech, because they have to go on, and same as in Pathways, they have to sign off having completed a speech. So now here you can see this one is the details of the Speechcrafter, and this is the pre-assessment. But if you actually click onto each of the lines that are there, it tells you what the person's answer is. So if people have done the pre-assessment prior to actually joining the meeting, joining that first Speechcraft session, you've got a fair bit of information on them already. If they haven't completed that, that gives you an indication that either they are arriving and haven't tried to prepare it all, or they've had difficulty in being able to access the information I know some people had difficulties in thinking, well, it's activate and launch and what's happening when it launches, and all of those pathways questions you're going to be getting from Speechcrafters, and you can sort it out for them. And then it's giving them the information. So they get all of this information online. So they're in Basecamp. They're completing their assessment in Basecamp. And it gives them quite a lot of guides for that. What I did do for the first Speechcraft course that we ran digitally is that we sent through to people the paper version as well, because you do have the option in some of the material that you get, you have the option to download some of the things in print form. And I did send the pre-assessment to people as well in case they had difficulties, because we had I was having difficulty accessing the information at all because of some of the technical things going around in the background, which TI have now fixed because it was shorter notice than what I would have liked, and therefore we got some of it completed in the paper version. And then it's also showing them what the Speechcrafters, what are they going to expect. They know they'll get a schedule that's laid out from beginning to end. They'll have table topics, evaluations, and the support that they'll get. What you're going to learn, what practice you'll need to have, what you'll be doing, what is going to strengthen your ability to listen, understand, develop, and how you build confidence, your ability to speak publicly. So it's give whoever's starting this, when they walk in, they're not coming in cold if they have actually accessed the information. And so I think a crucial part is making sure that the guides have been appointed to each Speechcrafter ahead of time, and so that when they actually start, they know that they've been able to gain access. It's that one-on-one or that one-on-two mentoring, which I think is quite important. Yes, sorry, Rob, you've got a question?
Yes, I have actually. Moving on to the content, is the content drastically different from the current manuals?
Okay, I'll go into that. It's quite similar. What I'll do is I'll pull up I'll show you a spreadsheet that I've got that I'm running for a current Speechcraft course at the moment. Mm-hmm. And it is similar in the idea that, so the first thing that you do is you're doing that assessment as to where they're at in terms of their speaking skills. In the first session, you're doing a speech you have an educational on choose your speech topic. And so that's the educational that's presented. And then you also go into, the guides will go through in the breakout group, in a sense, the guys will go through what your icebreaker is and how to introduce somebody is, and you'll cover that. That's pretty much in the first session, and you do your table topics as well. I'll tell you what, Rob, I'm going to come back to that one because I'll just finish this first and then go back. Are you okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, it's also vocal variety, body language, but I'll give it to you in more detail, a bit longer line. Some of the questions are looking at the frequently asked questions that you can see on the site as well. Is, can the material be shared? And obviously, you're not able to share the material with a colleague. They need to join the Speechcraft course themselves. They need to be registered to gain full access to everything. In terms of some of the material, like if a coordinator, if you're sharing it with your guides, there is material that's available that you can send to your guides. Other questions, how much credit will it give you to pathways once you've joined a club? Well, now that you have joined a club. So as you can see, that gives you the breakdown there. The people will be able to see that if they've registered and they still haven't got access, they need to contact the Speechcraft team. And the Speechcraft team are great. They weren't able to answer quite a few of my questions, but it was because some of it were IT issues, and they did get hold of their IT team and they did sort it out. So my thing is get hold of them. But if you're having difficulties, please come to me, and I'm happy to. I might know the answers because I've had quite a steep learning curve recently in this area. But if I don't know the answers, I'm happy to help you get those. Murray.
Let's somebody does the new Speechcraft course,
Yes.
doesn't join the club, a year, 2 years down the track, they join a club. Now, will the records come up essentially as the base camp for Speechcraft is a separate base camp from Pathways?
Yeah.
How will they then get the credit for what they did 2 years ago in Speechcraft?
Okay. I cannot answer the question as to how long that lasts for. I know it does last for a while. It's not, I mean, you don't have to join a club immediately. In terms of, I know exactly what you're saying is, and I think it's going to work through the email address. So that's what I would stress to Speechcrafters is that if you've taken part in Speechcraft now, if you're joining a club now, that's great. If later on down the line you join a club, don't forget the email address you used at the Speechcraft course.
Okay. So would that indicate when we're doing a corporate one that they use each one uses a personal email rather than their work email?
Yeah, I would strongly suggest that. And that's what I've implemented in the courses I'm doing at the moment. Yeah, we've done that already. That was just what they ask you to do as well is when you're actually entering your event details that you put in the price. Because if it's going to go above $120, then, there will be the price that you're putting in there. They give you the option. It's currency. So if you put in more than 125 New Zealand dollars, they're going to come and ask you why. Because they don't want it to be more than that. Although if it's becoming a part of membership and you're doing a year and you're doing the Speechcraft course, you probably will be able to do that. In session 2, you will be delivering the icebreaker speeches and each person will be introducing somebody else. So you're pairing the people up. And the Speechcraft, the icebreaker speeches is only 2 to 3 minutes. So it's short. It's not the 4 to 6, it's the 2 to 3 minutes. And each Speechcraft guide has to complete the evaluation and it needs to be done online as well.
So is it always like an hour or 2 hours per session, or what is the amount of time that's needed?
Okay, you need to have a look at that to see what's going to be covered. So what time frame do all of you generally think you would like to be doing if you were doing this?
2 hours has always been the standard, no matter what number of sessions you had in the past.
As I said earlier, my instinct would is if you're doing it with a club to grow membership, you fit it to what the club normally does.
Yeah.
So a lunchtime club would probably go for the 8 weeks.
Yeah.
With just 1 hour, with a 1 hour, whereas other ones might get away with 4 or 6 weeks if they're a 2 hour.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
It's also would come down to the cross credits look attractive.
Yeah.
I'll be interested over the next few months to find out how much of an incentive they are for people to actually transfer into becoming full Toastmasters.
Yeah, I think here again it depends very much on how you are doing this yourself. So, if you're doing it and you're just doing, there are definitely companies out there, and all they're looking for is somebody to give their staff a kickstart. Now, in the companies that I've been speaking to, I'm saying, yes, look, you can pay the same amount that you can get for an ongoing program for a year, or you can pay something for a quick start, but it gives people a taste, but it doesn't really develop that skill. And if people aren't practicing it, it's not going to be maintained. So it's a short-term solution, a short-term investment, and it's not really gaining maximum benefit for your company. And the companies seem to be buying into this quite a lot. If anybody's got corporates who they are enticing to be involved in the Speechcraft, I am happy to share the email that I've been sending out to corporates, promoting that, that it's my suggestion is do a 4-week session and then go start a club from there. And that the buy-in there seems to be quite big at the moment. You will get some, you get some people in HR where their job is to have an educational session for their staff, and they don't really actually care what the end result is. They just want to have that box ticked. And in that instant, yes, they'll do the Speechcraft course and they won't do anything else. But I mean, I think it is also dependent on the engagement that the guides have with each participant as to whether they can entice them to join a club. And I think one of the things that's been quite attractive to the companies as well is that there are clubs that are meeting online. So for some of the clubs, where some of the companies where they might have a very set time frame where they would be able to have a Toastmasters group in their organization, there are quite a lot of people in their company who won't be able to make it that time frame. And so they then are aware that they're not going to lose their investment in a Speechcraft, because that person can actually then join a club, and they can join an online club if they need to. So having removed that need for physical presence definitely seems to have helped quite a bit. I'm interested to see what you would think in terms of holding the Speechcraft in person or online. What's your viewpoint?
My main client at the moment wants it in person, and they're an IT company.
Yeah. And any other people? Anyone else?
I think it comes down to what's your reason for holding the Speechcraft. If it's to establish a club where there's no club in existence, then it would then you would use the format you expect the new club to be.
Yeah.
If you're looking at a existing club which meets in person, you would probably do an in-person one.
Yeah.
It's what where you want to be when the Speechcraft course finishes.
Yeah. I think as well is, if you've got a club, if you're struggling with membership, and you've got quite a few clubs that have got minimum of 8 members, and you're wanting to, you could actually do a Speechcraft course within your meeting. And that, I think, could be useful not only for the Speechcrafters that are involved, but for the club members as well, because you're doing a refresher of skills that are there. And again, you can get visitors to come, and you can get other Toastmasters from different clubs to come and support you with it as well, so that you're getting that mentoring that you need. Because I think that if you think about it, if somebody has received guidance for whether it's 4 or 8 weeks, and that's been good and it's been helpful, that'll be a big consideration as to whether you continue. I think good guidance on that basis would really help a lot. But I do appreciate that sometimes a club that has lower membership, their members are really busy already, and they are sometimes doing multiple roles for each meeting, and they don't have time. The reason for this workshop is to try and make things as easy as possible. We've got so many corporates that are wanting Speechcraft at the moment. Anybody who is happy to be involved, please let me know, because there's a huge demand for the Speechcraft courses, with the understanding a lot of the time that we actually then going to go into starting clubs. There are a lot of corporates wanting to start clubs, and the discussions that I've been having with them is they've seen the value that there's no point in just doing a Speechcraft course by itself. It needs to go into a club to have that long-term benefit, and also so that instead of having to worry about running clubs and running courses and courses, that club is ongoing. So you have a new person who joins, and now you've been running a course for 2 weeks now. What are you going to do with that person? But if you've got the club, they come in, they're assimilated, and they are gaining those skills, and people who did the course are having those skills enhanced. As you can see, the agendas are set up as if this has been run by a club, basically what's covered in a 4-week agenda. Gavin, have you got any questions?
If your course fee is going to include 6 or 12 months Toastmasters membership, then presumably you wouldn't start them at Toastmasters until they've completed the whole course?
Yeah, well, that's up to you, and that is an option that Toastmasters International does give. So, yeah, I would personally, if it was me, I would start people on the course, let them see what they're getting themselves into, and when they're comfortable about that, then sign them up for Toastmasters. But then the fee that they've paid to the club for the course, you then just deduct that from, that fee is no longer there for the course, it's there for their membership. All right, thank you very much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.